Yeah, good to catch up with you again, Dave. Beautiful spring day. This is a great time of year for observing. Starting to get a bit warmer at night. Makes things a lot more pleasant. So what are we looking at? Well, yeah, should be some nice sky in the next few weeks. Moon's on the wane, past full now, so heading into the darker skies again. Plenty to see at the moment. Jupiter very prominent still in the evening, very high up early on. It's big and bright. Big means bright in the case of Jupiter. I mean, the only planet that's normally brighter than Jupiter is Venus. And it's the reason Venus is brighter, it's much nearer, but also it's very reflective because it has a very cloudy atmosphere which reflects back a lot of light. But Jupiter is, you know, it's much further away, but big. But we're talking really big. We're talking 1,000 times. You can fit 1,000 Earths inside, so that's big, really big.
They're two very different planets, so aren't they?
Extremely different. Yeah, different in temperature, different composition. Yeah, just about every way you can name it, they're different.
So presumably Jupiter is a lot colder.
Much colder, yeah, much colder.
How
at least in the bit that we see, yes. Because the interior of Jupiter is actually very hot, but the bit that we see through a telescope, or really through a telescope, we just see the tops of the clouds basically, and it's very cold there. It's about minus 180 degrees Celsius, so yeah, very cold. Whereas Venus on the surface would be about 400 Celsius.
With binoculars or a telescope, what can people see that they can't see with the naked eye?
Well, you see, with the naked eye, you don't see the phases of the planets. You don't see like the shape or any detail. You just see them as a star. But binoculars, sometimes you can see a phase of Venus when it's closer to us. You can see sometimes a crescent phase. Jupiter always looks full because it's a long way out from the sun, so from our point of view we're just looking out at the day side all the time, so it just looks like a little full phase all the time. You don't see any changing phases with Jupiter. But with Jupiter, what you do see is especially with a telescope, you'll see the bands on the planet. You'll see the cloud bands wrapping around the equator particularly. If you're very lucky and you've got a good telescope and a good steady night, you might even see some of the thinner bands up toward the poles. And if you're very lucky, you might even see some of the storm features, the spots and what they call the festoons, and atmospheric features basically. Jupiter's like a boiling pot, Dave. It's sort of in constant dynamic change. It's a very turbulent planet. And you'll also see the moons. The Galilean moons orbiting the planet as well.
How many moons has Jupiter got?
Last count, because it's always changing, last count I seen was 63. That's official, 63, yeah. But there's only 4 people can see, in everyday instruments, unless you've got something like the Hubble, which unfortunately most of us haven't. Then yeah, you're restricted to 4 generally.